a lot of the path space, if you want, that's used for your repo is your repo, whatever structure your repo has. But for some reason, there's three different directories, and one of them is uploads that the router turns around and says, "Yeah, that's not really going to your repo. We're going to treat that special." And I don't,
Yeah, I,
yeah,
I I think what it maybe boils down to, again, I could be wrong here, but so first of all, let me share my screen. Uh, so there was a change like quite a long time ago that introduced this really handy dash. Um, Before then, I think, if I remember rightly, that the URLs were like this, which made it a bit challenging, a bit tricky to sort of try and take these URLs apart and figure out, well, what's the group? What's the project? What's the subgroup? What's the I don't know what you want to call it, like controller, action, etc., etc. So at least at some point, like this got introduced, which added separation between. I think I just call this like the namespace because it does
yeah.
combine like the group and or project, and then the sort of I don't know, actions or controllers or whatever. But before that, I think we were trying to be a bit more loose and magic at identifying things, whereas now we can be a bit more verbose. But like that uploads thing, I'm sure we should just be able to be more specific and say, well, actually, don't just look for blah, 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 slash uploads, specifically look for it to be, I don't know exactly what the examples were, like exactly there or
Yeah, that
exactly here.
the regular expression you found probably is all it needs to change. You could probably just tweak it so that I mean, that's not true. You would have to any code that needs to use the uploads would have to also know of the change in the path, but at least that way it would separate it from your repo
I
and
I don't know that it would though. That's the point. I think that the uploads endpoint is what's used when you like drag and drop a file into like here or like in various different places. So I think that doesn't need to be changed or made aware of any changes. We just need to make sure that whatever endpoint is used when you drag and drop a file into here or whatever those other bit rules are for, um, actually is caught, but stuff that is in the repository isn't caught. I mean, we could even be as simple as getting rid of. No, I've got to remember what it is. Uh,
that isn't really what we were going to talk about. You wanted to talk about. It doesn't
no,
matter.
we digress. And Jim's here now as well, who sent us down that slippery slope last week. Anyway, how you doing, Jim?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, great, thanks.
So I do have one question for you on that related topic.
Yeah.
Instead of keeping that slash uploads or whatever, would it be better to, because I know GitLab is trying to move everything over to using the API itself instead of the custom Ruby, whatever magic stuff it is? Would it just be better to move it directly over to that API?
I mean, yeah, that probably would be a good. So you're saying don't, yeah. So actually change the way the single file upload, if that's what we call that UI or tool. Just yeah, change the back end, not change the back end, change the back end that the front end is calling.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're not actually changing the back, making any changes to the back end. We're changing the front end and telling it to call a public API instead, essentially.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean that seems sensible. Um, yeah, absolutely.
Now, if you do that, you also probably should change the delete and the edit and the new file and the edit file and all those other ones all at once, right?
Yeah, so I'd be interested to know if they exhibit some or any of the same bugs. My guess is they probably don't. And obviously, we like to break things down and keep it as small as possible. So I would do it bit by bit. But yeah, with the intention. And again, I don't know, without going into GDK, which, if any of those are using Vue and yeah, what versus Haml, because that might also sort of help. It might be a bit of a, oh, well, this is actually old Haml. So should we start to migrate this to Vue? And as a part of that migration is when we start to consume the APIs.
Okay.
Just going to have a quick look to see. New dev tools should help me to understand that. Meanwhile, let's have a look at what the next item was on our list. So use the user preference time zone when login time in the past via the quick action. So file.
We have actual lists now.
List.
Oh, it's Vue.
Yeah, but what is that's like blob modal?
Seems
Guess
like
that's probably
it.
it. It's not quite highlighting it as it should be, but I think that's it. Yeah, I think that's it. Okie dokie. So hopefully my GDK is reasonably up to date. Fixing some other time log stuff this week. Turns out if you delete a user that's attached to a time log, it doesn't update the time log. So the time log's user ID is basically invalid, like it's a, I don't know what you call it, a broken foreign key type situation. So it causes some issues. So I ended up spinning up 3 merge requests. The first one is in our API, so it will actually check and it will fix if ever there's an invalid user ID. It will actually replace that with the ghost user. The next one is something to ensure when you delete a user that it actually updates all of their time logs to be attached to the ghost user. And the last one is a background migration that will update all historic time logs that are orphaned, if that's the right term. So hopefully that will fix that one. So yeah, let's have a look at what happens. So at the moment, we're saying we've changed it to midday for both the quick action and the UI.
Yeah.
But what our expectation is that when I use the UI, when I use the UI, I would expect it to be in GMT midday, but when I use the quick action, I'm going to expect it to be, oh no, because it's running on my machine. So do I think they'll both be in, sorry, not GMT, we're BST at the moment. So I might have to, oh no, this is going to be a pain, I think. We'll see. So I will time from 1st of April, 1 hour. So when we look at t.last, it's log at.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yes, exactly. So when I then do Then 2 hours. I do 2 potentially. Perfect. That's good. At least I can recreate what I want to be able to recreate. So at the moment, the UI behaves differently to the quick action, the API, whatever you want to call it. So what we want to do is, first of all, see if I've actually got a time zone set. My expectation is that, oh, I've actually got it set to different. So even better to really show it working with.
I just remembered, do we also have or rather, how do we want to handle a direct API call if someone's using the API? Because for GraphQL, if they provide a full timestamp, like date, time, and locale, it's supposed to work. I think the API is the same.
I can't remember how far we got last week as to whether we even allow you to pass the time.
Yeah. Because you can provide a full string. The fix for the front end was done on the front end. The API didn't change.
That's right. Yeah. So we don't. Yeah, because that's a good point.
This is supposed to work as you provide a specific spent at value, date and time zone, then that's going to be saved as is on a database.
So we're saying here it's down to the user to pass in the correct.
Yeah. And I would keep it that way.
Yes, I would. Exactly. Yeah, I don't think we change that. I think all we're interested in changing is when you use the quick action. And that was, now I'm going to have to go to my old MR to remind myself. Right. We don't. So what calls?
Yeah, because that's it's like a module. It doesn't really need the user. Do you pass the user in?
Well, that's a good question. I think, yeah, I honestly don't feel like this should have any concept of that. I think, but then it's figuring out, well, okay, so it's called from here. So that's converting and returning. So then can we just sort of do like to zone or something?
Yeah. Actually, I would rather do it down, like when it's populating the updates.
Yeah. Seems fair. Yeah.
Yeah, because that execute is not returning only the spent at value, it's returning the triplet of time spent, spent date, and category.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I never expected to get the field name right first time. So okay. I've got
That's because they used a good naming convention for that one.
a Ruby date time day to state.
Oh, one thing about Duo
Plugins.
Chat. Uh, I was certain that Duo Chat now supported had context about the open file, doesn't it?
I'm sure, yeah, fairly sure it does. Yeah,
Even on the web ID.
probably. I'm not 100% confident, but yeah, I would think so.
I'll need to chat because I
Right.
tried this, but it didn't work.
So,
In time zone seems nice.
do that to start with and watch it explode. But then that's gonna always screw it, isn't it? I only
Why?
want it to manipulate. Well, it's gonna the spent app defaults to
Midday server time.
well, no, sorry, imagine that I'm not backdating it. How does that
Oh, you're right. You should have a look at the separator. But well, you could
there you
do
go.
it.
This bit. Go on,
You
sorry.
could do one other thing instead of passing the user to the separator class method or whatever it is. You could just provide a time zone defaulted to UTC and pass in the time zone from the user.
Good point. Yeah, I like that. And that also begs the question if I clear, is it possible to clear it?
You set it to UTC.
So is that the but I don't know if that's the default, if you know what I mean. Like, because would it be the server time zone is the default, or how does it behave, you know?
I've hmm.
I mean, it says it's UTC, but does that mean on GitLab.com?
Yeah.
Let me just have a quick look at a self-managed instance and see. I'm fairly sure I've never said it, but
I did set mine, but I'm sure that my colleagues didn't, so I can check them.
it's null. I'm fairly sure it's null.
Do you want to check from the UI or from the console?
There you go, Neil.
Hmm.
So time. That's where I kind of want to say. Be a nicer way of cleaning that up. But...
Does that work, or do you? Yeah, it does work. Nearly
Just going to
selectable.
spend some time without a thingy to make sure that it doesn't explode, and it correctly shows the correct. There's just now there on there. Last. That correctly shows UTC. Fine. And if I do my time tracking report, 1, 2, 3, that shows at 11:44. That shows at 1 p.m. because that was before the fix, and that shows at midday.
Why do you change the time zone before setting midday? I would do it the opposite, because otherwise you could end up changing the time zone, change the day to the day before or after, and then set it to midday.
Good point. Yeah, I think I agree with that. Buy some tests or change our time zone, something crazy. Okay, so breaking it. It's a bit tonight. 500 error.
I think it's not not returning anything from the top when time zone is not provided.
But I have got time zone, so it should be provided even if that was. But I think the idea of tap is that it returns this, if that makes sense. But maybe I shouldn't have used tap. Let's just do it the old school way. I don't think that's what was wrong. Yeah, I've started to use tap a bit more. I know some people don't like it, and I never used to like it because I didn't really get the point of it, but starting to come around to if you need to define something just so that you can manipulate it a little bit and then return it, it's sort of almost like a short-lived variable.
Yeah.
So it's still 500 in.
Shouldn't be the GraphQL because it's calling the quick action.
It's using GraphQL, but the note GraphQL because I'm on the new look at the new work item experience.
Okay. Yeah. Undefined local variable. time zone.
Okay. Simples.
Oh, and also for the if.
Got it, thank you. That's almost good enough reason I might go through. I've started using the old Atra reader a little bit more rather than these sort of like magic inline defined instance variables.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that's wrong.
Yeah.
So I think it's what we're basically doing is changing the time zone, which has no impact on the time, if that makes sense. So let's try doing what I had initially. Sometimes this is where it's just better just to type some numbers into the console just to see what's going on. Okay, that's worked. That's worked.
Okay.
So let's just figure out, so based on your sort of concern, so a passing something like I've done here the 6th of April. It then says in time zone. So if 6th of April was 6th of April for me, but actually that would have been the 5th of April in UTC.
Well, you can try because you can set a time zone with plus 13 hours. Huh. How did it keep?
So if you look, what it's actually done there is it is actually the 6th of April in the database, UTC, but that's equal to midday in whatever time zone I put in, which is what it's stamped on here because that's what I sent. It doesn't, this isn't a date, if that makes sense. This is literally the string that I passed in.
Yeah.
And then this is, now my brain can't quite understand that. So if I said, yeah, okay, so I'm plus 13, BST is plus 1. So you go back 13 hours, go forward 1 hour, and you get to midnight from midday.
Yeah.
I think that's exactly the behavior we want, to be honest. I'm happy with that. I think one of the next things is to change this to show based on, although does it really need to?
Based on the user locale, because
Yeah,
that
so well,
that's a string saved on the database. I mean,
I think from a user perspective, you want to see time in your time. Or if you have multiple people doing something and one does it the day before, or whatever, I look at it, I
Yeah.
don't want to see 10 o'clock last night, some weird time zone. I want to know what time it was from my perspective.
So we
Yes, I
can't
agree.
do that, unfortunately. That's a limitation because this is stored as a string.
But that's
It's
only
a
valid. I mean, this logic is only valid only for system nodes.
But
yes,
can
correct.
we tag it then with UTC or something so that at least I know that it's not in my time zone?
But then we don't really want to do that because then that will be wrong for the person that entered it.
No, it'll still be correct for them. It'll be in UTC.
But why would they want to see it in UTC?
Well, because of the limitation you've put on it. Well, no, I mean, the problem is you put something in your time zone, I read it in my time zone, but it tells me in your time zone. So I don't even know what your time zone was.
Well,
So,
no, I think the idea is that we would say that the administrator added 6 hours of spent time on the 7th of April 2024 at midday BST.
okay. I mean, it's better. I think if it's not in my time, which you say we can't do, then at least tagging it with your time. So at least I know that it's not mine. Right. So having it tagged with whatever your time is. So worst case, you're just appending your time zone name or abbreviation to that string that you're putting in the database.
Exactly. Yeah, pretty much. And that way you can at least sort of understand, oh, okay, it said they did it at, on the 7th of April in Sam or whatever it is. But I know that for me, that was actually on the 6th of April, if you know what I mean. So
you
So
won't be able to do any migrations on that. So at some point, you're just going to have it start adding in the time zone, correct?
I think
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah, you
Okay.
can't change the system node because you couldn't even know what time zone where they were created in.
yeah, I think if you're going to display the time and you can't put it in my time or you can't guarantee to put it in my time, at least tell me that it's not my time, right? Which is the
Yeah.
whole, you know, it's a good compromise because then you don't have to change it. If there's nothing there, it's old data. And if there's a time zone there, it's new data that is correct for
Yeah.
the person who created it.
Bingo. So the question is, can we get from? I'm sure the answer is yes, but
We actually have another option, which could be removing the date from that system node because you know that someone added how much time and when from the just now or and if you want to watch and have the specific date and time they added that time login for the spent at, you go have a look at the full report. That way you don't have like administrator added 6 hours of time spent just now or 52
so you're
seconds
saying
ago.
just don't display a date at all?
Yeah, because if you want to see when they, the spent at field, you can go have a look at the time tracking report.
I like the idea, but no. Like a way of not confusing people by just not telling them that doesn't.
But you sort of already do because that time is only that date is only shown when you change when you set it to when you actually set it. If you have a look at the added 3 hours of time spent, you don't know spent at.
Well, you can, if you want to, you can just hover, right?
Yeah, but
so that answers your own question. So if we don't put it there at all, they can still hover and they can see when it is.
Yeah.
Well, no, they can't on this because they will see when the time was added, not when the time was spent.
Yes, but at that point, either do it for all of them or none of them, in my opinion, at this point, because if we just remove it, then we can have a look and have the correct spent out value on in my time zone.
I think we're really explicitly wanting to call out that someone is backdating time logs, because you imagine if this report, and like I see reports with hundreds, like this time log report barely works because there's too many logs and the summaries are exploding, etc. How am I even going to know if it's this one or this one or the? Obviously, in this instance, I've deliberately used a different amount of time on every node. If there's 4 that have all got the same amount of time logged on them, then I'm not going to have a clue which one's which.
Okay, but we also can know if a time log was backdated because we have the time of when the time log was created and the spent out. They don't work on the same field. So we could show
indicate on this report
those ones that are backdated.
I think that would be a nice improvement, but I still genuinely believe that here, like, this is a timeline, and that we could, if we want to see when anything happened, then we can hover over it, but we can't see the date of these backdated things without, and I don't think going into here and then trying to guess which one it is really works. It is questioning me, making me think, like, how hard would it be to find a way to link? Do you know what I mean? Like, link this system note to the time log so that we can actually render in the person who's viewing. But we do something really weird. I wish I could remember what it is now. Something like there's some tables that contain. So I want to say something like estimates. I think it's weight tracking events or something like that. Resource weight events. So we actually store I haven't got any in there, but when you do, and this one's kind of funny in a way, actually, because you don't really need these because the system note would actually suffice. But in here, we don't actually store it as a system note. We actually render. What did I obviously typed in the complete wrong thing there, didn't I?
Oh yeah.
I did spend
500 days,
away.
500 hours, whatever it was.
Yep. Be right back.
Yeah. So this actually, the new weight and the previous weight, all of these things are stored, and this system note actually isn't a system note. It's actually generated on the fly from this resource weight event. But I think that's just expanding the scope of this a bit too much. Keeping it simple.
So you're saying that bold stuff is being generated on the fly?
Bingo. Let's see if I can find the. So I've made some changes because it didn't used to tell you like the from and to values. It just showed you like the new value, and I made some changes to that quite some time ago. There we go. Weight note. So we actually generate the wait note from the event. So that would allow us to do something more intelligent, but I think this is probably like insanely inefficient, because obviously if you've got to grab notes from the note table plus events from the resource weight events table plus whatever else might randomly be in here.
Well, couldn't you just normalize the data into a single table and then deal with it that way so it's not as inefficient?
But then are you saying like I don't know what you'd call it, like a magic table that's got columns for weight, it's got columns for time spent, it's got columns for.
I thought I was considering just doing one for the time spent because that's your issue one. Your weight one
But
is not an issue currently, is it?
but the problem is to render this timeline,
Oh, you're
like,
saying all of those just
yeah,
in
what we
general.
don't, yeah, we don't want to get into a scenario where we have to query 17 different types of objects and then convert them all to a format and then render them all. So yeah, we're in a bit of a, I don't know what you want to call it. It's a sort of tech debt situation. Um, I don't know how I would, if I was to architect this today, maybe I would have a system notes table, and then each system note would have a type and an ID of some sort, and that would allow you to join out to another table which contained the relevant, I don't know what you want to call them, um, primitives to be able to render a note which is somehow dynamic, rather than what we're doing with the time logs, which is just storing it statically. Just going to check whether there, I don't think there is anything, but there's is there a system? No. So I'm just wondering if we could link that we've got for a no. No, it doesn't look like we've really got anything to link it to. Be nice if there was some kind of field that we could use to create a relationship with the time log itself, and then we could do something clever, but let's rein it back in. Let's do the so we've done this. I might try and squeeze this one in the same MR as well. So the time that's in the activity beat. Okay, so the system note currently looks like so converting it to a date here. How do we decide? Got it. So if it's the current date, we don't do the app bit. So how would you feel, Marco, if I did the opposite to what you were suggesting, and if I actually started to always print, like to make it consistent? So basically to get rid of this criteria here.
Yeah, that's actually a point that I also made. I mean, either we always show it or never show it.
So we get rid of the 2 day. called notable dot spent at? Weird. So
You wonder why it's called notable?
yeah, because the spent at's against the time log, not the notable.
But we're talking about system nodes, so the object is then notable.
Good point. Even though you can't have notes on time logs, the note is on the. But
The
yeah,
notable and time trackable are the same in our use
yeah,
case.
but well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. The spent at isn't that doesn't belong to the notable. The notable is the issue or the merge request.
Oh, yeah, no, wait. Where is what? That stat is a time log.
Yeah, so I think this has just been misused a bit here. That's all. So have we
Yeah,
got
because
the?
we're also taking time span. Yeah, that's definitely a time log.
But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So we've got the user. So is it author? I think it's just user.
No, that's author for the time log. Pretty sure 99.9%, but I'm checking.
It's just user ID. So I would have thought it'd be yeah, just user. Now I just this is the bit that we do need additional, right? So
Oh, yeah. I don't know why I remember that.
let's just see if I've completely broken it. Always nice to get an update midway.
Ooh. I'm kind of late. I'll start preparing lunch.
Oh no, the notable isn't. So what? I'm so confused. How on earth are we getting spent at from the notable? Time spent. This is really weird.
Try and have a look at the time log create service, because that's calling the system nodes service under the hood, so we can check what it's passing.
I wonder if we're doing some weird like injecting stuff into the notable that we kind of shouldn't be, if that makes sense.
Oh, I think we do actually, because we're changing that. And because I remember having a look at an MR that I can't remember. I had to go down that rabbit hole to figure out where that time spent was coming from, and I think the time trackable has those fields. That get updated by the quick action service or something like that. I don't remember. It's been over.
You got time spent user though, I think. So let's try that. That's weird. That break again. Oh no. Woohoo!
I created an MR. I created an MR this morning, and the reviewer just said, "This is one of the easiest reviews of my career. Approving and merging." I fixed one cut.
I'll reminisce back to an MR from a few years ago in a minute. I wish I could remember the bug that we fixed, but you said it was one character, right?
Yeah, it was a typo.
So we fixed. I wish I could remember what the bug was, but the fix was changing something dot text context something dot text context, and like we were literally staring at a diff. Or not a proper diff, if you know what I mean. We were looking at them in VS Code, and we couldn't see it, like, because it was just a single character. We were like, why is it? I think it might have even been a spec that was failing, and we couldn't figure out why it is. Because I think they're both valid methods or whatever. So yeah. I mean, I don't love it, but I think that's consistent, and it helps, right? Like, yes, it might be a bit like, oh, well, what the hell is that in my time zone? I've got to do the maths, but at least it's clear, and you can do the maths, whereas before you just can't, right?
Or before you didn't know you had to.
That's also true, yeah.
Right? You just assume, you look at it and go, yeah, okay, why is that yesterday? Or tomorrow. Or, if it's not off by that much, if it's off by enough, you notice. If it's not off by much, you assume. So this way, at least you have the information if you notice.
Absolutely. So I will check the specs for the files that I've obviously changed, run those, fix them up, and then push it up and tag you all on there. Awesome. Thanks for joining.
It's always interesting.
bring a problem.
Well, I find it funny because I keep missing the other one on Thursdays because it's in my afternoon, because I don't always think about it in the afternoon. This one, at least in the morning for me, it's how I start my day on Tuesdays anyway, so it works out good. So I enjoy this.
Awesome. I really appreciate you joining. Yeah, it's much better when there's participation. So have a great day, everyone.
Hey, Lee, I have a question for you.
Oh, go on, Jim.
I was taking a look at the contributor platform and making some changes there. What's the easiest way to run it on my local machine?
So what OS are you running?
Windows, but I'm running everything Dockerized. So
cool. Okay. So it should be pretty self-explanatory is quite the right word, but when you open it in VS Code, it should like prompt you like this immediately and says, you know,
if you're trying to show us something.
Oh, stop sharing my screen. Thank you.
It should look like
Always
what?
helps. When you open the project in VS Code, it should like immediately prompt you to open it in a container. We've got this dev container set up, which basically means it will spin up the environment that it needs using this Docker Compose config.
Okay.
So if you do that, it should do everything you need. There's some prerequisites defined in here if you want to be able to kind of SSH to like pull and push and do your stuff from inside the container. And the environment variables, you just need to make a copy of this Docker env and fill out some values. But then as soon as you open that in the dev container, it spins up the Postgres container, it spins up the V and the Rails container. And if you need to, there's a seed like rate command that you can run to put some data in there as well.
Okay. The last question I have, I hope, is I was taking a look at the organizations page, and it looks like they need to put some case insensitivity on there because, like, I saw some of the companies are counted like multiple times. Siemens is one of them.
Absolutely. That rings a bell, so much so that I'd be disappointed if I haven't created an issue for that. Let's have a look.
Because like you see Siemens and then Siemens AG. Siemens AG and Siemens I can consider two different companies, but Siemens capital and Siemens lowercase would be the same company, I would think, right?
Yeah, totally agree. Disappointed in myself. I've definitely raised it. It may be that just like in a Discord or Slack discussion or whatever, because what we do is, can you see there's 10 contributors there and one there? If we go into here, we do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So we do I don't know what the word is, like normalize or remove the case sensitivity once we get to the listing and here. But we don't sort of amalgamate them here. So yeah, I would love to see that.
Okay. I'll take a stab at that probably and see what I have to do. When you do case insensitivity in your guys' stuff, is the database stored as case insensitive or is the database case sensitive?
No, it is case sensitive, although in this instance, I'm trying to think of what you actually want to do, because you've even got to figure out, well, which one of these am I going to use?
Right.
And like if we want to be cool, clever, good, or whatever, we could base it on like the majority. But in many instances, there might be like 1 and 1. So it might be as simple and dumb as just saying take the first one.
That's what I would do. And if someone has an issue with it, they can change it on their profile.
Absolutely. Yeah. That sounds good to me.
But is it actually different name? Actually, same name for different companies, because on different countries they could exist.
In a case like that, I would expect to have, like, for example, like Siemens, I would expect Siemens Australia or something like that.
Yeah, but that's because the same company, Siemens, has multiple like locations, and they could add the suffix. But I know for a fact that a company like Media Studio, where I work at, there are other companies named exactly Media Studio.
Yeah.
Even here.
But what I think we're saying is there's nothing we can do about that, right? So if you want yours to be, I don't know, let's say your one is that, and in the US there's one of those, and because there's 2, yours gets merged in with our one, I think you have no option other than to do sort of like something like that, or you've there's not a lot we can
Yeah.
do, right?
Yeah, it's hard to just use the name because they can have the same name.
Exactly. Yeah.
You almost need to do what you
Um,
do for LinkedIn and create profiles and let people claim profiles.
Yeah.
But that's
but yeah, I look forward to that. That'd be a nice optimization of that. Definitely, it's come up before.
okay. But
Awesome. Yeah. In which case, have a great day.
have a great day. Bye.
Again,
Cheers.